Dr. Sarah Chun floated in the observation deck of Harmony's Edge, watching the stars through the massive window. The space station was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It spun slowly in the darkness between galaxies, a neutral meeting. Place for the 12 species of the Galactic Confederation. Sarah touched the small Earth flag pin on her uniform. She was the first human ambassador to make contact with alien life. The weight of representing her entire species made her stomach tight with worry. Amazing, is it not? Said a voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrians. The alien looked like a tall, thin person covered in blue scales. 2 large eyes sat on either side of his head like a bird. When he spoke, his mouth barely moved. "Yes, it is beautiful," Sarah replied. She had been practicing the common galactic language for months, but still felt clumsy with the words. "We have been waiting to meet your species for many cycles," Veltar said. "The initial scans of your planet showed such promise. A world full of art, music, and stories. Very creative people, the humans." Sarah smiled. "Thank you. We are excited to learn from all of you." More aliens entered the observation deck. Sarah recognized them from her briefings. There was Crystal and Kethmer, who looked like walking gemstones that caught the light beautifully. The Vrex delegates moved on 6 legs and had fur like cats. Commander Vexthul of the Skarn stood apart from the others. His people looked the most like humans, but were taller and had gray skin like rock. "Ah, Dr. Chun," said Kethmer in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "We have been studying your cultural broadcasts. Such wonderful imagination your people have." "Cultural broadcasts?" Sarah asked. "Yes, the entertainment signals from your planet," Veltar explained. "The war stories are particularly creative. Such detailed battles and conflicts. The special effects are remarkable." Sarah felt confused. "War stories?" A Vrex delegate padded forward on soft paws. "The historical documentaries about your great conflicts. World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan. The storytelling is so realistic. Our children watch them for entertainment." Sarah's blood went cold. Those ... Those are not stories." The aliens looked at each other. Commander Vexthul stepped closer. His people were known as the most aggressive in the Confederation, though they had not fought a real war in over 300 years. "What do you mean?" Vexthul asked. "I mean those are not fiction. Those are records of real events that happened on Earth." The room became very quiet. Sarah could hear the hum of the station's engines. "That cannot be correct," Kethmer said, their crystal body flashing different colors. "The scale of destruction shown in those broadcasts. No species would do such things to their own kind." "But we did," Sarah said quietly. "For thousands of years, humans have fought wars against each other." Veltar's blue scales seemed to lose their color. "You are saying that the footage of cities burning, of millions dying, of those terrible weapons, this all actually happened?" Sarah nodded. "Yes, every documentary you watched was real history." A young Zephyrian assistant dropped the data pad. "They were holding." The sound echoed in the silent room. "How many?" Vexthul asked, his voice rough. "How many what? How many of your people have died in these wars?" Sarah thought about the question. In the 20th century alone, maybe 100 million people, maybe more. The number hit the aliens like a physical blow. Several stepped backward. The Vrex delegate made a sound like a wounded animal. 100 million, Veltar repeated slowly. "Of your own species, yes. And you still make entertainment about it?" Kethmer asked, confused. "We make documentaries so we remember, so we do not forget what happened. So maybe we can do better." Commander Vexthul studied Sarah's face carefully. His people were warriors, but they had not seen real battle in centuries. "Show me," he said. "Show you what?" "Show me proof. If what you say is true, there must be evidence beyond your broadcasts." Sarah pulled out her tablet and connected it to the room's display system. Images filled the wall. Photographs from battlefields, bombed cities, refugee camps, soldiers helping wounded enemies, children in hospitals, memorials covered with millions of names. The aliens stared at the images in shock. Sarah realized that to them, war was just an idea. They had joined the Confederation thousands of years ago and forgotten what real fighting looked like. These scars on this soldier, Vexthal pointed at a photo. They are real? Yes, many of our veterans carry scars from combat. Veterans? People who fought in wars and survived. And they are honored in your society? Sarah thought about the question. Yes and no. We try to take care of them, but we do not always do it well. War damages people in ways that do not always heal. The room stayed silent for a long time. Finally, Veltar spoke. Dr. Chun, I think there has been a serious misunderstanding about your species. What kind of misunderstanding? We invited humanity to join the Confederation because we thought you were a peaceful people who just had very good imaginations. Sarah felt her heart sink. And now? Now we must discuss whether your species is too dangerous to be part of galactic civilization. The other aliens nodded sadly. Sarah looked around the room at faces that had been friendly just minutes before. Now they looked at her with fear and worry. I understand, Sarah said, but please remember that we came here in peace. We want to learn from you and share what we know. But how can we trust a species that has killed so many of its own kind? Asked the Vrex delegate. Sarah did not have a good answer for that question. She looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity's violent past would keep them from having a peaceful future among the stars. The meeting that was supposed to welcome humanity into the galaxy had become something very different. Sarah realized that the real first contact was just beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation began 3 hours after Sarah's revelation. Representatives from all 12 species gathered in the Great Council Chamber. Sarah sat alone at a small table in the center, feeling like she was on trial. High Council leader Vexenari of the ancient ethereals floated above the assembly. The ethereals looked like jellyfish made of light and had been peaceful for over 10,000 years. Their voice filled the chamber without sound, speaking directly into everyone's mind. Dr. Chen, Vexenari's thoughts touched Sarah's consciousness. We require a full explanation of your species' history of violence. The Council must understand what we are dealing with. Sarah stood up. Around her, hundreds of alien eyes watched. Her every move. Where would you like me to begin? From the beginning, said Commander Vexthal. He had positioned himself at the front of the Skarn delegation. Tell us about your first war. Sarah took a deep breath. We do not know when the first war happened. Humans have been fighting each other since before we learned to write. Archaeological evidence shows battles from over 10,000 years ago. A wave of shocked whispers passed through the chamber. The crystal-like Kethmer flashed angry red colors. 10,000 years? Viltar asked. You have been at war for 10,000 years? Not constantly, Sarah explained. But yes, somewhere on Earth, there has almost always been some kind of conflict happening. The young Vrex delegate who had dropped the datapad earlier raised a paw. Why? Why do you fight your own kind? Sarah had expected this question but still found it hard to answer. Many reasons. Resources, territory, religion, politics, fear, greed. Sometimes we fight to defend ourselves. Sometimes we fight to defend others. Defend others? This came from a species Sarah had not met before. They looked like tall plants, with many arms. Yes, sometimes humans fight to protect people who cannot protect themselves. Vexenari's mental voice grew colder. Show us your worst conflict. Sarah activated her tablet again. Images of World War II filled the giant screens. Around the chamber, bombed cities, concentration camps, beaches covered with bodies. Mushroom clouds rising over Japanese cities. The silence that followed was deafening. Several aliens left the chamber. Sarah heard one delegate being sick in the hallway. How many died in this one war? Vexthal asked quietly. Between 70 and 80 million people. A Kethma representative made a sound like breaking glass. In one war, how long did it last? 6 years. 80 million in 6 years, Veltar repeated. That is more than the total population of most of our worlds. Sarah nodded sadly. It was our worst war, but not our only one. We had another global. We're just 20 years earlier. And many smaller conflicts before and after. The weapons in your images, said a delegate from the peaceful Luminari, they seem designed only to kill. Yes, humans are very good at making weapons. But why? The plant-like alien sounded genuinely confused. Why spend so much time learning to hurt each other? Sarah thought carefully before answering. Because if you do not learn to fight, someone who does learn will take everything from you. This statement caused an uproar in the chamber. Aliens stood and shouted in dozens of languages. Some demanded humanity be banned from space forever. Others argued for immediate military action against Earth. The Xenori restored order with a mental command that felt like ice in everyone's brain. Dr. Chun, are humans still fighting wars now? There are conflicts happening on Earth right now, yes. But they are smaller than our past wars. How can we believe that? Asked a nervous Vrex elder. How do we know you will not bring your violence here? Because, Sarah said, standing up straighter, we came here to join you, not to conquer you. We could have arrived with warships. We could have demanded surrender. Instead, I came alone. On a small ship with gifts and offers of friendship. Commander Vexthal studied Sarah with new interest. You said humans fight to defend others. Explain this. Sarah brought up new images. Allied soldiers liberating concentration camps, peacekeepers protecting civilians, medical teams treating enemy wounded, soldiers sharing food with hungry children. We learned that war brings suffering to everyone. So we also learned to use our fighting skills to protect those who cannot protect themselves. But you still make war, Veltar pointed out. Yes, because sometimes the only way to stop someone who wants to hurt innocent people is to fight them. A long debate followed. Species after species spoke about humanity's violent nature. Many wanted Earth quarantined. Some wanted the human race destroyed before they could spread violence too. Other worlds. Then, something unexpected happened. A small alarm sounded in the chamber. Vexenori's light dimmed as they received an urgent message. Council members, Vexenori announced, we have received a priority alert from the Outer Rim. Long-range sensors have detected movement in the dead zone. Every alien in the chamber went completely still. Sarah had never seen anything like it. It was as if someone had pressed a pause button on the entire room. What is the dead zone? Sarah asked. Veltar answered in a whisper. A region of space where nothing lives anymore. Nothing has lived there for 1,000 years. What happened there? The Devour a swarm, Vexthal said. His gray skin had turned almost white. They consumed everything. Planets, stars, entire civilizations. We thought they were gone forever. How many did they kill? Sarah asked. All of them, Vexenori replied. Every living thing in 50 star systems. Billions upon billions of lives. Sarah looked around the chamber. Every alien face showed terror she had never seen before. What stopped them? Nothing stopped them, Veltar said. They just left. Went dormant. We hoped they were dead. But now they are moving again, Vexenori confirmed. The sensors show massive biomechanical signatures heading toward inhabited space. Sarah realized something important. How many wars has the Confederation fought? None, Vexthal admitted. We have been at peace for over 3,000 years. Then how will you fight these devourers? The chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Sarah listened to species after species admit they had no military forces, no weapons, no experience. With real combat, she stood up again. Her voice cut through the noise. You might need our help. The chamber fell silent again. Hundreds of aliens stared at the human who had just offered to help the very people who were debating whether to destroy. Her species, Vexenary S-metal voice was very quiet. Dr. Chun, are you saying that humanity would fight for us? I am saying that humanity knows how to fight. And we learned long ago that sometimes you have to fight to protect what matters. Commander Vex Thul looked at Sarah with something that might have been respect, even after we called you monsters. Sarah met his gaze steadily, especially then, because that is what the good monsters do. The council chamber stayed silent for a long time after Sarah's offer. Finally, Vexenary spoke into everyone's mind. The council will debate humanity's proposal. Dr. Chun, you will wait in the guest quarters while we decide. Sarah nodded and started to leave. As she reached the door, Commander Vex Thu called out, Dr. Chun, when you said humans would fight for us, did you mean that? Sarah turned back. Yes, we meant it. Why? After everything we said about your species? Sarah thought about the question. Because the alternative is letting innocent people die, and humans learned long ago that we cannot live with that. 3 days passed. Sarah stayed in her small room, watching news feeds from Earth. Her government was sending everything the aliens had requested. Military records, battle footage, casualty reports, weapon specifications. Humanity was laying bare its violent soul for judgment. On the 3rd day, her door chimed. Sarah opened it to find a tall man in a military uniform standing in the hallway. Captain James Rodriguez, United Earth Marine Corps, the man said, saluting. I am here to assist you, ma'am. Sarah looked at the captain's left arm. Below the elbow, it was made of metal and plastic, advanced prosthetics, but clearly artificial. The council wants to see you, Rodriguez continued. They have questions about human military capability. They walked together through the station's corridors. Sarah noticed how other beings stepped aside when they saw Rodriguez. Some looked afraid. Others stared at his artificial arm with curiosity. How? Did you lose your arm? Sarah asked. Bomb in Afghanistan. 3 years ago. Rodriguez spoke matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. I am sorry. Do not be. I was pulling 2 wounded enemy soldiers out of a burning building when it happened. They lived. Worth it. Sarah stopped walking. You lost your arm. Saving enemy soldiers? Yes, ma'am. They were just kids. 17, maybe 18 years old. Scared and hurt. The building was coming down. Rodriguez shrugged. Someone had to get them out. They entered the council chamber. This time, only the senior delegates were present. About 50 aliens instead of hundreds. Vexenary floated down. Closer than before. Captain Rodriguez, we have been studying human military records. The numbers are disturbing. Yes, sir, Rodriguez replied. War is disturbing. You have fought in 3 separate conflicts, Veltar said, reading from a data pad. Afghanistan, Syria, and the Congo peacekeeping mission. That is correct. In Afghanistan, you killed 17 enemy combatants. Yes, sir. But you also saved 43 wounded enemies and 26 civilians. Rodriguez nodded. When the shooting stops, wounded is just wounded. Doesn't matter which side they were on. A Kefmer delegate flashed confused yellow colors. We do not understand. Why save people you were fighting against? Because they are people, Rodriguez said simply. The fighting ends. But people are still people. Commander Vex Thul stepped forward. Show us your scars, sir. Dr. Chun said human veterans carry scars. Show us yours. Rodriguez looked at Sarah, who nodded. The captain removed his jacket and rolled up his right sleeve. His arm was covered with old wounds, burns, cuts, and what looked like shrapnel marks. "This one is from Syria," he said, pointing to a long scar on his forearm. "Pulled my squad leader out of a collapsed building. This one," he indicated a burn mark on his shoulder, "is from the Congo. Carried a wounded child through a fire zone." The alien stared at the scars in fascination and horror. "Do all human soldiers look like this?" asked a nervous Vrex delegate. "The ones who have seen real combat, yes, sir. War leaves marks." Dexonary's mental voice was gentler now. "Captain, how many of your fellow soldiers have died in these conflicts?" "In my unit specifically? 12 good people over 6 years of deployment. And how does that make you feel?" Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. "Sad, angry, guilty that I lived when they did not, but also proud that they died protecting others." "You would do it again?" Veltar asked. "Fight and risk dying? If innocent people needed protection, yes, sir, every time." Sarah watched the aliens process this information. They were trying to understand how the same species that created such destruction could also produce people like Rodriguez. "Captain," Vexthal said, "if we asked humans to fight the Devourer swarm, what would you need?" "Intelligence on the enemy, their weapons, tactics, capabilities, supply lines for ammunition and medical support, and time to study their weaknesses." "You think they have weaknesses?" Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Everything has weaknesses, sir. You just have to find them and exploit them." "The Devourers consumed 50 star systems," Vexenori pointed out. "They destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity. With respect, sir, those civilizations had not fought a real war in thousands of years. Humans fight wars every generation. We remember how. But the cost," Veltar said sadly. "So many of your people would die." "Yes, sir. War always costs lives. But sometimes the cost of not fighting is higher." The chamber fell silent again. Sarah could see the aliens struggling with an impossible decision. Trust the violent humans or face the Devourers alone. Finally, a new voice spoke. It was the plant-like delegate who had asked about human motivations. "Captain Rodriguez, may I ask you something personal?" "Yes, sir." "When you saved those enemy soldiers, the ones who cost you your arm, do you regret it?" Rodriguez looked down at his prosthetic hand, flexing the mechanical fingers. "No, sir, I do not regret it." "Why not?" "Because that is what humans do. We protect people who cannot protect themselves, even if it costs us everything." The plant being's leaves rustled softly. "Even if those people are your enemies." "Especially then, sir. Anyone can protect their friends. It takes something more to protect your enemies." Vexnori floated higher, their light pulsing with what Sarah had learned was deep thought. "Dr. Chun, Captain Rodriguez, please wait outside while the council votes." They left the chamber and sat in the hallway. Rodriguez examined his artificial fingers while Sarah watched alien delegates hurry past. "Do you think they will trust us?" Sarah asked. "I hope so, because if they do not, everyone dies. US, them, and billions of innocent people. Are you afraid?" Rodriguez considered the question, terrified. "But fear is not the enemy. Giving up is the enemy." The chamber doors opened. Veltar stepped out, his blue scales pale but his expression determined. "The council has decided. We will accept humanity's offer of military assistance." Sarah felt relief flood through her. "But," Veltar continued, "there are conditions. Human forces will operate under Confederation oversight. Any acts of unnecessary violence will result in immediate termination of the alliance." Rodriguez stood and saluted. "Understood, sir. When do we start?" "The Devourer swarm will reach the outer colonies in 2 weeks. How long do you need to prepare?" "Give me 72 hours to get my people here." Then we will show you how humans really fight. The human fleet arrived at the edge of Confederation space exactly 72 hours later. Sarah watched from the bridge of the flagship as 23 Earth warships took position alongside the hastily assembled alien defense force. The contrast was shocking. The Confederation ships were beautiful things of curved metal and flowing lines, designed for exploration and peaceful contact. The human vessels looked like weapons, all sharp angles, heavy armor, and gun turrets. Captain Rodriguez stood at the tactical display with Admiral Maria Santos, the fleet commander. Around them, alien observers watched nervously as humans prepared for war. "Devour biosignatures detected," announced Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station. "Range, 4 light hours and closing." Admiral Santos studied the readings. "How many ships, Lieutenant?" "Unknown, ma'am." "The signals are ... strange. It looks like one massive organism instead of separate vessels." Commander Vexthal stepped closer to the display. Over the past week, he had been working closely with the human military advisors. His gray skin now bore fresh scars from combat training. "The historical records say they consume matter and energy to grow larger," Vexthal reported. "Each system they devour makes them stronger. Then we stop them here," Santos said simply, "before they can feed again." The Confederation ships spread out in a defensive line. Their weapons were designed for mining and construction, hastily modified for combat. The human ships moved into attack formation with practiced efficiency. "Admiral," came a transmission from the Zephyrian flagship. "We are detecting massive energy buildup in the Devourer formation." On screen, Santos ordered, the main display filled with an image that made several aliens step backward. The Devourer swarm was not a fleet of ships. It was a single living thing the size of a small moon. Its surface crawled with mechanical parts and organic tissue fused together. Thousands of smaller organisms swarmed around it like angry insects. "My God," Sarah whispered. "Biomechanical hybrid," Rodriguez observed calmly. "Part machine, part living creature. Explains why conventional weapons did not work against them." "What do you recommend, Captain?" Vexthal asked. "We find the brain. Cut off the head, the body dies." The first wave of smaller devourers reached the defense line. The alien ships opened fire with their modified tools. Bright energy beams lit up space but barely scratched the attackers. Armored. Then, the human ships entered the fight. The difference was immediate and brutal. Human weapons had been designed for one purpose: destroying other ships as efficiently as possible. Nuclear torpedoes, particle beam cannons, and railguns tore through the smaller devourers like paper. "Confederation ships, pull back to secondary positions," Santos ordered. "Let us handle the front line." Sarah watched as alien crews obeyed without question. A week ago, they had been afraid of human violence. Now they were grateful for it. "Multiple hull breaches on the Devourer main body," Lieutenant Kim reported, "but it is regenerating the damage." "Expected," Rodriguez said. "Living things heal. We need to do more damage than it can repair." The massive Devourer fired back. A beam of pure energy swept across space, cutting one of the Confederation ships in half. The crew of 300 Luminari died instantly. "Bastard," Admiral Santos muttered. "All ships, attack pattern Delta. Target the areas where organic and mechanical components meet." The human fleet moved as one unit. Their coordination was perfect, the result of centuries of naval warfare experience. They focused their fire on weak points while staying mobile to avoid the Devourer's massive weapons. "Direct hit on what looks like a neural cluster," reported the weapons officer. "The creature is slowing down, but the victory was temporary." More Devourers emerged from the main body, these ones larger and better armed than the first wave. "Admiral," Vexthal said, "my ship requests permission to join the attack." Santos looked surprised. Commander, your people have no combat experience. No, but we have been watching yours. And someone needs to cover your damaged ships while they withdraw. 3 Confederation vessels moved forward to escort wounded human ships back to safety. They used their bodies as shields while the human crews made emergency repairs. Sarah saw a Zephyrian captain sacrifice his own ship to save a human destroyer. The alien vessel exploded in a ball of flame, but the human ship survived. They are learning, Rodriguez said quietly. Learning to fight. Learning to sacrifice. The battle continued for 6 hours. Human ships darted in and out of the Devourer's reach, striking at vulnerable points and withdrawing before the creature could respond. But the cost was heavy. 8 human ships had been destroyed, and thousands of crew members were dead or wounded. Admiral, Lieutenant Kim called out, I found something. The creature has a central core about 2 kilometers below the surface. High energy readings, could be the brain. Can we reach it? Not with ship weapons. The armor is too thick. Someone would have to go inside. Admiral Santos and Captain Rodriguez looked at each other. Volunteer mission, Rodriguez said. Full combat gear, explosives, and a lot of luck. Captain, that is a suicide mission, Vexthal protested. Maybe, but if we do not try, everyone dies anyway. Within an hour, a strike team was assembled. 20 human marines in powered armor, plus volunteers from 3 alien species. Commander Vexthal insisted on joining despite having only a week of combat training. Why? Rodriguez asked him. This is not your fight. Yes, it is. These creatures want to destroy everything I care about. That makes it my fight. The strike team boarded a heavily armed transport and flew directly into the Devourer's mouth. The ship's armor melted under bioacid attacks, but they reached the interior. Sarah watched from the flagship as the team fought their way through living corridors filled with defensive organisms. Their progress was slow and bloody. Marine down, came Rodriguez's voice over the radio. Sergeant Miller is gone. 2 more casualties, reported another voice. We are running low on ammunition. But they kept moving forward. Humans and aliens fighting side by side, protecting each other as they pushed deeper into the creature's body. Target located, Rodriguez finally announced. It is huge. Looks like a brain made of metal and flesh, setting charges now. Rodriguez, your exit route is blocked, Lieutenant Kim warned. Multiple hostiles moving to your position. Copy that. We will find another way out. But Sarah could hear in his voice that he knew there was no other way out. All teams, plant your charges. And move to minimum safe distance, Rodriguez ordered. Sir, minimum safe distance is outside the creature. We cannot make it in time. Then we make sure the charges work. Sarah felt tears running down her face as she listened to the final radio transmissions. Human and alien voices calling out positions, covering each other's retreat, making their last stand together. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, the massive devourer was drifting dead in space, its brain destroyed, but the strike team was gone. All of them. Commander. Vexthal's ship transmitted one final message. The monsters did good. 6 months after the battle, Sarah stood in the memorial garden on Harmony's Edge. The wall behind her was covered with names carved in stone. Human names mixed with alien ones. Rodriguez, James, United Earth Marines. Vexthal, Commander, Skarn. Defense Corps, Miller, David, United Earth Marines. Zethany, Lieutenant, Zephyrian Volunteers. The garden was quiet except for the sound of water flowing over carved stones. Families from dozens of worlds came here to remember the dead. Ambassador. Veltar approached, walking slowly. His left arm was gone, lost in the battle when he had tried to save a damaged human ship. Like Sarah, he came to the memorial often. Dr. Chun, he said softly, how are you today? Sad, proud, confused. Sarah touched Rodriguez's name on the wall. How can I feel all these things at once? I have been wondering the same thing, Veltar replied. My people called humans monsters. Now we build statues to honor them. They stood together in silence. Around the galaxy, similar memorials were being built. The Confederation had voted unanimously to honor all who died fighting the Devourers. The Council wants to see you today, Veltar said. Another hearing about human military doctrine? No, something different, something important. They walked together through the station corridors. Sarah noticed how much had changed in 6 months. Aliens who once feared humans now studied human. Military manuals. Confederation ships were being rebuilt with human weapon designs. Young aliens wore patches showing Earth's flag alongside their own. The council chamber looked different too. Where once there had been flowers and art celebrating peace, now there were displays honoring those who fought for it. The gentle lighting had been replaced with brighter illumination that better showed scars and prosthetics. High Council leader Vexenori floated at the center of the room. Their light seemed dimmer than before, older somehow. Dr. Chun, Vexenori. Mental voice touched her consciousness. We have made a decision about humanity's place in the Confederation. Sarah felt her heart speed up. After months of debates, the Council was finally ready to vote on whether humans could join galactic civilization. We have studied your species extensively, Vexenori continued. Your wars, your weapons, your capacity. For violence, we have seen how humans kill and how humans die. Around the chamber, alien delegates nodded. Many bore scars from combat training with human instructors. Others wore prosthetics like badges of honor. We have concluded, Vexenori said, that humanity is indeed the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Sarah's heart sank. After everything they had sacrificed, humans were still being judged as too violent. However, Vexenori continued, we have also learned something else. Dangerous and evil are not the same thing. The chamber erupted in approving sounds from a dozen species. Captain Rodriguez taught us that the most dangerous individuals can also be the most protective. Commander Vex Thol learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but action despite fear. Our own young people have discovered that some things are worth fighting for. Veltar stepped forward. Dr. Chun, humanity's application to join the Confederation is approved, but we ask for something more. What do you mean? We want humans to teach us. Not just how to fight, but how to be warriors. How to protect what matters even when it costs everything. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. You want us to train your people for war? We want you to train our people for peace, corrected a Kethmar. Delegate, their crystal body flashing proud blue colors. Real peace, the kind that must be defended. Vexenori's light pulsed with what Sarah had learned was deep emotion. We spent thousands of years believing that peace meant the absence of conflict, but you showed us something different. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is conflict resolved in favor of the innocent. A young Vrex padded forward. Sarah recognized her as the assistant who had dropped the datapad during that first meeting. Now she wore a human-made uniform and the rank insignia of a Confederation security officer. Dr. Chun, the young Vrex said, I want to show you something. She lead Sarah to a viewing port that looked out into space. In the distance, a massive construction project was taking place. Hundreds of ships worked together to build something new. The Terran Defense Academy, the Vrex explained. Named after your planet. Young people from all over the Confederation will come here to learn from human instructors. Learn what? How to be good monsters, Veltar said, joining them at the window. How to use violence only to protect. How to sacrifice for others. How to be strong enough to choose peace, but brave enough to fight when peace is not enough. Sarah watched the construction and thought about Rodriguez's words. Anyone can protect their friends. It takes something more to protect your enemies. There is something else, Vexenori announced to the chamber. We are creating a new motto for the Confederation. Words to remind us what we learned from humanity. The great display screens around the chamber lit up with text in dozens of languages. Sarah read the human version. From scars, wisdom. From conflict, peace. From humanity, hope. The ceremony continued for hours. Species after species spoke about what they had learned from humans. The Luminari talked about the courage to stand against impossible odds. The ethereals discussed the nobility of sacrifice. Even the plant-like Verdani had developed concepts of protective violence. As the formal session ended, Sarah found herself surrounded by young aliens asking questions. How do you train soldiers to show mercy? How do you teach people to fight for others instead of themselves? How do you build weapons that protect instead of conquer? Sarah answered as best she could, but she realized these were questions humanity was still learning to answer. Later that evening, Sarah stood again in the memorial garden. This time she was not alone. Dozens of beings from across the galaxy had come to honor the dead. Humans and aliens stood together, sharing stories of the fallen. A young Skarn approached her. His gray skin bore fresh scars from training, and his eyes held the weight of someone who had learned hard truths. Dr. Chun, he said, I am Kexthen. Commander Vexthul was my father. Sarah felt her breath catch. I am so sorry for your loss. Do not be sorry. Be proud. My father died learning to be human. What do you mean? He learned that the strongest weapon is not the one that destroys enemies, but the one that protects friends. He died protecting people he had known for only days. People who were not even his species. Kexthen touched his father's name on the memorial wall. He would be proud to know that his sacrifice taught the galaxy something important. What did it teach? That monsters and heroes are often the same people. The difference is what they choose to fight for. Sarah looked around the garden at the faces of so many species. Former pacifists who now understood the necessity of strength. Warriors who had learned the importance of restraint. Young people who would inherit a galaxy where peace was protected by those willing to fight for it. The stars shone overhead, no longer seeming cold and distant. They were homes now, filled with people who understood that the scars of the past could become the wisdom of the future. Humanity had come to the stars, expecting to be judged for their violence. Instead, they had taught the galaxy that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the choice to protect. In the end, the monsters had become the heroes, not by changing what they were, but by choosing what they fought for. Galaxy was safe, guarded by those who understood that peace was not a gift, but a responsibility. And humanity, the most dangerous species in known space, had become its greatest protectors. The scars would always remain. But now they told a story, not of destruction, but of sacrifice. Not of conquest, but of protection. They were the scars of heroes,